welcome to this presentation. So today we're gonna speak about the writing systems, the evolution, the definition, and the two contributors that are really important to the history of the writing systems. We're gonna also speak about an article we use for our research that is really important. The writing system is a script in the form of orthography. It is characters put together to form structures of words and sentences. It is a way of communicating. Its composition of linguistic elements such as morpheme, phonological, consonant, vowels, syllables. In the world since then, there are multiple writing systems that was created, such as alphabet, syllabary system, logographic systems. As you can see here, the logography systems, for example, is the one we know when we drive, like the one we learned to in our classes when we learn to drive. So there's a symbols, a logo, a design that mean a word that mean a words. So a stop signs mean to stop, but there's ones with they're not writing stop necessary. They're just like a drawing that we understand, and that symbols means something to us, and it's a writing systems. And the 5600 before Jesus Christ, the Sumerian form words with one syllable. So one syllable plus one syllable means concept. So ku was meant food, a meant water. So the answer to that was put food and water together. The answer is fish for them. In the end, a writing system is really like a set of signs or a symbol created to for storage at first, but it is now an important way of communicating for us, and it helped our society so much to develop us in what and how we are today, because we're capable of now sharing ideas, have concept, think more, and put important information into words, and we can communicate really well with that. First, alphabets are writing systems. It was not that back then, but it's now alphabets. So it's not symbol anymore, but at first, in the concept and the definition, I think writing systems is symbols put together to form a way of communicating for me. The Sumerian language was spoken in southern Mesopotamia. It was the earliest language in Mesopotamia, and even more importantly, it was the first one, and it was perceived importance, and it was prestige and of Sumerian, and it continued to be maintained as a language of cult and scholarship now and before, much like Latin and medieval Europe. The writing system of Sumerian has the principle of polyphony and homophony, and homophony is like one word. Ancient Mesoamerican had several writing systems, the only true pre-Columbian writing in the New World. Mesoamerica has provided the earliest and best known indigenous literatures in the America. Literatures and a Mesoamerican language began long before European contact, writing in the pre-Columbian writing systems. And this is where we are in the blank, like we have cuneiform language that started, and we have the Egyptian language that started somewhere else a little bit after, but there is no really connection between them, but they had their really own writing systems with symbols, so we believe that they're connected, but in some ways it was like impossible, but even then we believed it had influence um, over their writing systems, but it's still like there's still no answer of how they created writing systems that is so much similar without even being connected. Before the Mesoterranean script, there was clay of different shapes. That token were used for goods, and each shape was for a separate items of merchandise. So a grain had his own symbols, and a sheep had his own symbol. It barely had anything in common with spoken language, anything. After ages, the talking linked to writing, um, because we wanted to put symbols into more uh, sounds. So it came writing. The only important start from the token systems involve of the two-step type of sign. I'm just gonna change my diapositive. Okay. Okay, the only important start from the token systems evolve of two type of sign, incised pictography and impressed numerals. The mixture of these two created the semantic division between the item content and the numbers. So they were item that they counted, and then they create numbers for that. And over 3 minutes before, just guys, there was the creation of phonetic signs. They represented the sound of speech, which then parted from its token and descendant and other spoken language. As a result, writing shifted from the visual to the oral world, and logograms were drawn picture of words. It had a syllabic value. Uh, uh, uh. The invention of the alphabet about 1500 before Jesus Christ assisted the third phase in the evolution of writing in the ancient Near East. The first was the Proto-Sinaitic and or the Proto-Cananite alphabet. It consisted of a set of 22 letters, each standing for a single sound of voice. The second was consonantal. It dealt only with speech sound, characterized by constriction of closure at one or more points. And the third was when it streamlined the system to 22 signs instead of hundreds. The Latin alphabet was used by the Romans. Charlemagne had an influence of the development of Latin also. And the talking systems prior to writing took information in different ways. The first one was that it's translated daily life communities and into something that was arbitrary. The second was that the counters abstracted the item counted from their context. And the third was that the token system separated the data from the knower, which means it communicated directly specific information to anyone initiated in the system, where knowledge was transmitted by words of mouth from one individual individual to another, face to face. There were two important contributors, the Sumerian and the Egyptians, and they both started out as pictographic, like little pictures of objects. Since the Sumerian wrote on clay tablets, the sign developed into cuneiform, which is a bunch of wedge-shaped sign produced with a red stylus. These were easier to produce and then trying to make pictures. The Egyptians worked on papyrus and stone and kept their pictograph for thousands of years. Um, and since hieroglyphs were little pictures, they were thought to have like magical qualities. Like they believed the writing systems came from gods. The Egyptian developed it as a cursive form of hieroglyph called hieratic, which they used for everyday purpose. The hieroglyphs were reserved for important inscription only, such as monuments. Writing is the physical manifestation of a spoken language. There are different developmental stages of writing, such as picture writing system, pictographic, and so on. But the first writing in history, known by name, is the Mesopotamian. Writing in China developed from divination rites using oracle boards and 1200 before Jesus Christ, and appears to also have arisen independently as there is no evidence of cultural transfer at this time between China and Mesopotamia. The Sumerians first invented writing as a means of long distance communication, which was necessitated by trade. But we cannot be sure of the real origin of Egyptian and Mesoamerican writing system, as we saw in our article we analyzed. Because it changed over the years from a system where it was symbol and logographic systems to systems with syllables and more complex development components. Sorry. It evolved over the century, and the cuneiform script is the first language we know of. There are multiple phases to the writing systems, as we saw, and the tokens from clay from this time changes into the alphabet we know today, which we use for 3,500 years. To prove their article, they use other bibliographic article and base their research upon the last of history we know about the writing systems. The issue is probably where they cannot know how Mesoamerica got their writing systems. Um, all of this information was from our references that I'm trying to show you. Okay, though all of those information were coming from all of those references, the one I speak about at the end is the Denis Schmond Besseret, The Evolution of Writing, University of Texas. Denis Schmond Besseret had really good information about the evolution of the writing systems, and that's why we choose to